The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now your host, Nicole Hutchison.
Welcome back in, Cowboys Nation, to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, fresh off the bye week. I'm Nicole Hutchison alongside Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Christy Scales. Ladies, feels good to be back with you guys. Did y'all miss me?
Yes.
Of course.
I missed y'all.
I already do.
See? I missed y'all, man.
Yeah, I did.
Feels great.
I did.
Great. Little bye week, little chance. What'd y'all do this weekend? Okay,
I
I'm in
spent
y'all
time with my
business.
people.
My bad.
I spent time with my family and stuff. What about y'all?
I was sick, so I was in bed dying. I'm not sick anymore. I'd just like to clarify.
Oh.
But
You know you got
but I did. I got that post-Disney sickness. Not just the depression part, but like the actual
I'm
sickness
screaming.
part.
What about you, Christy?
I got to hold my 10-day-old great-nephew, Bryce.
Yay!
So I went to Ohio to visit my niece and her family and my great-nieces, and now I have great-nephew. So it was a wonderful weekend.
I love that. Look at y'all having
Christy.
a great time.
What'd you do? Did you
Yeah.
spend time with your people too?
Yeah, I went home to Houston with my dad. Stayed the weekend with him, so it was pretty cool.
Got
we had
a
a little
pedicure.
pedicure date.
Oh,
Yeah,
so cute.
a little din too. It was cool, really nice. All right, let's talk football.
We're so back.
We're so back.
So back.
We are back. Look around the NFC East. Of course, the Commanders still in first place at 5-2. The Eagles 4-2. Dallas in third place. The New York Giants 2-5. Just what's y'all's thoughts on the games this weekend? Of course, the Commanders just demolishing. I believe it was the Panthers on Sunday. So just talk about just the thoughts and the concerns about the NFC East right now, the state of it.
Well, you lose a half a game to the ones that are just in front of you with Philadelphia and, of course, Washington. And it'll be interesting to see Jaden Daniels, the star rookie quarterback for the Commanders, left the game early with a rib injury. And, I mean, he was back on the sideline and joking around with teammates and stuff, but it's often the day after where you really start to feel it. So it looks like they overall dodged a real bullet there, because that could have been a very serious blow to the Commanders, but that's the benefit of having an experienced quarterback like Mariota. So they just crushed Carolina, and then Philadelphia, not surprised that they were able to handle the Giants. I mean, the Giants' offense somehow manages to get worse every single week. It is hard to watch that team. It's such ugly football on offense, but they're in the basement. But the Cowboys unfortunately lost the half game to the Eagles and the Commanders.
You know what's frustrating about it is that this team, if you go back, you have a time machine and you fix these things that you knew would be issues that we talked about could be issues and are now issues. This team could easily be blown out the NFC East. Like, that's what's frustrating to me, because technically still you look at it, it's pretty wide open. Like, nobody's taking a full leap ahead to where, it's impossible to catch up. Commanders 5-2, Eagles 4-2, Cowboys 3-3, Giants 2-5. Yikes. But it's frustrating because you know that it's going to come down to one or two games that you look back on the schedule when it comes to playoff seeding to say, man, had they won this game, you could have potentially made the playoffs if you don't, or you could have been, seeded higher in the playoffs. So for me, this is the time post-bye week I always start thinking of playoff seeding and how every win and loss really matters. Not that it didn't before, but how going forward, you're kind of digging your grave, or you're sealing your grave at this point. So that's what's on my mind with it.
Yeah, I mean, to second Jess, I think about the playoff seeding and just kind of the way the NFC is kind of shaping out right now. I mean, you mentioned that it doesn't seem like winning the division or anything is attainable. I mean, look at the 49ers. Look at some of these teams. Look at Green Bay. Like, some of these teams that, we expect to come into this year. Now, granted, San Fran's been riddled with injuries, just like the Cowboys, and we'll get into that. But in regard to just the state of the NFC, I think it is going to take 10 games to be in the playoffs. And if you have Philly and the Commanders that make the playoffs, you might just get a wild card slot. And even at that might be hard to get. So it's like this team does need to figure out how to win 10 games to be in the playoffs. So with what's going on with the NFC, I mean,
Yeah, you need to start rooting for
frustrating.
AFC teams like
Yeah.
Houston and Green Bay. You need to root for the Houstons of the world to take down Green Bay so
Yeah.
that you've got to knock these NFC teams
Yeah.
off
Yep.
because you could have 3 playoff teams from the NFC North
Yeah.
if the Bears
Oh,
keep
they're all
playing
good.
well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Vikings, the Lions, and then possibly the Bears, and then in the West, Seattle's ahead of San Francisco. It's hard to believe that San Francisco is 3-4.
Yeah.
But once they get their healthy people back, I mean, look out. I mean, Seattle better win and get some pad between them and San Francisco moving forward.
Jazz and I were talking. She came to the locker room today, and we were talking. She's like, nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about how, the 49ers have a losing record essentially right now. But, of course, it's headlines when the Cowboys are 3-3.
yeah,
So
and it's a lot of it's because of their injuries.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, I don't
The thing
I don't
about
expect people
San
to feel
Fran-
sorry for us no more.
No, the thing about San Fran, though, is they can turn it up when they need to, and they do, and they capitalize off of mistakes. When you make them, they're going to capitalize off of them. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons they learned, against the Chiefs was specifically doing that, and they've done that ever since. So, yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there.
So the Cowboys need to capitalize off this bye week. And when we start with Mike McCarthy talking about just the second trimester and how they've kind of revisited a lot of things throughout the bye week and kind of reevaluated and things like that. They put together a new practice plan. And before we get to that, though, I want to just ask you guys, if you had to describe a motto or a 3-worded motto for this team heading now into this second trimester, let's start there. What would it be?
I have a 2-word.
word.
Well, if it's
2-word, we
if it's
can do 2.
hyphenated, is it one
Let's do
word
it.
or two? Well, what Mike McCarthy talked about today, it's self-improvement, and every facet of this team needs improvement and to play to their standards. And so that was the main thing he was talking about. So you can talk about route running, you can talk about all these things that I know we'll get to in the podcast and throughout the whole week, but self-improvement means also looking within and taking care of your own business. So we can talk about, San Francisco, or, hey, how many teams are going to go from the East, or how many teams from the North or the South in the playoffs, how is it going to shape out? But if you're not looking within and improving your own game, then forget it. It's, it's just hot air at that point.
I like that one.
Mine's more than 3 words. I'm in the Eras Tour spirit, so I'm going to my Queen Taylor Swift for some advice here.
Oh, my goodness.
So my motto is from one of my favorite albums, Midnights, and it's from a song called Mastermind. It says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Strategy sets the scene for the tale. So for me, it's if you're not planning a very strategic improvement plan that is specific to being a very open and honest conversation of what these issues actually are, you're planning to fail at this point. So for me, going forward, there needs to be a lot of honest conversations of how you actually fix these problems and how you actually address them, whether that means people get their feelings hurt or they see, less snap count, whatever the case is. It's time to be honest, put the foot down. And I don't know if y'all have seen Inside Out, where he's like, put the foot down, the foot is going down. Foot needs to go down.
The little cartoon movie?
Yeah,
Inside Out
with the
is-
little
I've
emotions.
seen 'em. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that. I
Foot
like that.
needs to go down
Love that.
because otherwise you're planning to fail.
It's a good one.
Love it.
I ain't really good with getting put on the spot like this.
It's okay, my bad. I'll go.
You go.
Mine was just live your potential. It ain't that deep as Jess's, but
I'm
it
in the
kind
Eras
of ties.
Tour mode.
Yeah,
Don't.
it
Yeah.
ties in together.
Yeah.
It ties in a little bit
Yep.
with more of Christy's though, just because like individually, yes, you do have to self-improve, self-reflect. But I feel like for this team to reach their full potential, every player needs to be working in and day in and day out to reach their full potential, and then this team can succeed. So I'm gonna go with live your potential.
I like
Love
that.
that.
Oh my God, y'all are all so good and positive.
You want a Taylor Swift?
I
Lyric? I
guess
have another
mine-
one over here.
Mine was gonna be tighten the hell up, but I didn't want it to be like that, so I changed it.
I'm gonna
Mine was also
say-
going to be just do it, but that might be a copyright
You
infringement.
know,
I'm gonna say the first thing that came to my mind, and the first thing that came to my mind was this ain't that. And as far as like,
it's a good one.
this ain't the type of year where last year they had some injuries in the middle of the year, but they were able to overcome it. Like, they're going to have to go, to y'all's point, they're going to have to go so deep within themselves as players. They're out so many star players that I think in previous years they were able to overcome some of these injuries and overcome some of this stuff because they had stars in these places. You've lost some of that depth, and you've also dealt with injuries. So it's like, this ain't that, big bruh.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, put on your hard hat,
And get your
put
big
on
boy
your
pants.
briefcase, and you're going to have to play. Also, too, this ain't that. You can look across the pond and see teams preparing to do some trades and stuff. That's not how they do down here. You're going to have to figure out how things are going to work. And then also, too, specifically with the coaching changes and those things like that. I mean, is this like the third year that the bye was a reset, was a come to Jesus, kumbaya, let's hold hands and light candles moment?
It feels like it, yeah.
And I think that the team has figured some things out in those moments, but this year feels different in a sense of it just feels like pivotal for them to make some serious changes. Like the previous years, it was like a couple tweaks here, get CD the ball more. You traded for Jonathan Hankins, like
kind of easier
little
fixes
things.
a little bit.
No, yeah, like to me, this ain't that. This ain't last year. This ain't the year before that. Like guys are gonna have to play beyond themselves for you to be able to get to the next level. So that's mine. This ain't
good.
that.
I kind of veer off a
really
little
good.
bit because that's a good point right there. This ain't that. Guys are going to have to play a little bit beyond themselves. Who in particular would you like, who needs to be playing beyond themselves more or the most after this bye week?
I would say, depending on what's happening with Kendrick Shaw, it's Maris Lewis-Fowl or Demarion Overshown. Those guys are going to have to play.
Or Damone.
Or Damone are going to have to play beyond their years. They're going to have to play beyond themselves, like taking on that role, having to be the green dot or whatever the case may be this young in your career is not something that we see at the linebacker position for good reason.
Yeah.
But if that is something that has to happen, even with Damone, even if he is the Mike, it's still a new system.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So even though he's done it before, it's still a new feel. So it's like, to me, the linebackers are going to, because of what's going on in your interior in the front, those guys have to be almost mistake free, and it's very hard to do, but they might have to.
Well, and if they can't, then my answer is your safeties because
Please.
the way I
Wake
am,
up.
I'm just so confused to the level of talent that you have in that room and how every single time it's just always a mistake or a misplacement or a missed tackle or just fundamentally the safety room as a whole is not looking sound. I mean, they're getting ran the hell over consistently. So for me, yes, linebackers, but above that, if they can't because they're a young room, your safety room is not young. I'm sorry. You're experienced. You know better. Play beyond yourself and play like you have and like you know that they are capable of playing. I just don't understand why the safety play has been so sloppy lately.
Can I add something very
Yeah,
quickly
go ahead.
just to
Go
the
ahead.
safety conversation? When you look at Mike Zimmer's system and how he does things, at the beginning of the season, I wondered how someone even like a Donovan Wilson fit. I understood how he kind of use Harrison Smith of the Vikings. He had him come down in the box and do some things. But the way that Zimmer runs his system, your safeties need to be able to cover,
And drop down.
cover, and drop down. There's no in between. They need to be able, and they also have to be heady. Now, the Cowboys defense haven't gotten a chance to really disguise and do a whole bunch of stuff, but he manipulates a lot with his safeties.
Yeah.
I just wonder if the system change has gotten them a little, because their responsibilities do change. It's not the same as being in the nickel. It's not the same as being a robber down there in the box and just helping out with the run. No, these guys have actual fits. They have and they have things they do post snap too. So that I wanted to add to your comment, because I do think that the system change has put the safeties in a position to where they have to change a little bit. And as of right now, we can say they haven't responded or played well to this point.
Correct.
So I just wanted to add that. Thank you so
that's
much.
great.
Yeah, no, I love that and agree with both. I think, but I'm going to go with the line, Mozzie and Osa.
Talk
Mozzie.
about it.
And in offensive line too, Tyler Guyton.
Dang it, yep.
Tyler
Both
Guyton
lines.
was he was healthy enough to be dressed out, but didn't play against Detroit. So he's going to have to get back to the fundamentals and get his big boy pants and, just keep going. We talked a couple weeks ago, right, about growing pains, and that's to be expected with a rookie. And he's had some really, really difficult matchups. I mean, some of the best pass rushers in the league he's gone against. And so the line just absolutely has to play better. The offensive line has to play better. And so, and when you're a left tackle, Cooper Beebe inside, doing well and making all the calls and everything, but you're a little more insulated when you're in the middle of the line. When you're a tackle, especially if it's one-on-one against some of these great pass rushers, you can be, I won't say on an island because that's like a cornerback, but you can be maybe a little more exposed, or at least it's a little more visible to the naked eye, even for the fans up in the 400 section. So those are my guys, and I'm sorry if I stole
you're
yours,
good.
Nicole.
I was going to go
Sarah.
offensive line as well, but one thing that I did like that Mike McCarthy had said is that with the offensive line, he's working on more line movement. They're implementing that a little bit more in this second trimester, just because he feels as if like the one-on-ones in practice just aren't working. They're teaching obviously have been struggling with the stunts, defensive stunts and stuff like that, but they're working on maybe 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s to get a little bit more line movement. So hopefully that does kind of pay off a little bit. But
Cool that you mentioned that. Thank you for mentioning that, because I think I missed that in his presser.
It was really interesting because he was talking about how you think your team is the practice team, the one that you see on the field every day. But in reality, your team is what you put on film on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about what you see on film Sunday is so different from what the practice film, that's in your head. And so they have to, they have to equalize
Mirror
that,
it,
right? Yeah, mirror it.
And to your point about that entire question, Nicole, what's so interesting is I'm sitting here like thinking as we're going around the table, I'm like, there's not one room that I can think of that didn't have improvements that they need to play out of themselves from the last 6 weeks. Like, you can go down every position group and name improvements that absolutely need to be made. Not a tweak, not an adjustment, but actual improvements, because it goes around everywhere. Like, I was thinking tight ends, I was thinking quarterback room, I was thinking, O-line, running backs. Like, everybody has their piece of the pie. I know they hate that analogy, sorry fans, but a piece of the pie to contribute, because if 4 rooms out of all of them are doing it and then those other rooms aren't doing it, like, everybody needs to come together at some point and really understand where they are, and at this point, like, playoff contention could potentially be at risk, and it is.
yeah, could you tell in locker room if it wasn't that many people in there,
It
but
was not. They saw us and they went,
yeah, literally they ran. But no, could you tell? I guess like from what you heard from a couple of the players, that there was a little bit of a sense of urgency of needing to improve, or no?
I don't want to say no to it, because they haven't necessarily started their game planning phase where they need that sense of urgency for San Fran this week. What they did talk about today was how different the meetings were post-bye and how they went to different position groups. Running backs went to linebackers. Rico talked about that today, and kind of what they see on their side of film for him to improve on. So he talked about specifically, like, I dropped my right shoulder, and, specific things. He's like, I never noticed that before. So for me, it's not that it was urgent yet, but it was very much reflective of they're taking in what needs to be improved on. I don't think the sense of urgency will come until they start game planning, which they were doing after we met up with them in locker room.
One thing in regards to the across the hall meetings where Rico's in with the linebackers. So the defensive coaches are talking to the offensive players, and the offensive coaches with the defensive players. I think it's going to be really interesting coming out of it this time, because there are so many new faces on the defensive side, not just Zimmer, but Paul Gunther, all the years that he's had as a defensive coordinator in the league. Jeff Scanina, not just as a coach, he's the Cowboys defensive line coach previously with Washington Commanders, but his, 16 years that he played in the league, or 14 years, a long time. And so it's a different perspective, right? And some of these guys like Jeff aren't that far removed from their playing days. And so I think it's going to be interesting because McCarthy has done across-the-hall meetings in the past, but for the offensive players, it hasn't been with this set of defensive coaches. So I think it will be interesting to get totally new sets of eyes that have only seen them in practice for a couple months instead of being with them for a few years.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. We went a little long this segment, but it's all right because we're having a little bit of fun where the ladies are back together. But we'll be right back with more Girls Talk, Boys Talk presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
The Dallas Cowboys take on the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara on Sunday, October 27th. So we're hosting another free watch party presented by 7-Eleven. Join us at the Miller Lighthouse at AT&T Stadium to watch the game with Cowboys Nation. And cue Thunderstruck while you're at it because the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are performing and Rowdy will be there too. Watch the game, grab a Slurpee, and cheer loud. Get your free tickets at dallascowboys.com/watch party today.
What watch party is that again?
What do you mean?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
All of this?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding.
The Dallas Cowboys take...
I was joking.
You know what? You know how I love that Slurpee. Every time I do this read, I literally go get a Slurpee after.
Oh, my goodness.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You think they would ever listen, I think Thunderstruck is a jam.
Don't start it.
I was asking if you ladies believe that they would. Christy, when the last time they didn't play Thunderstruck? Do they have like a 10 years they play one song, then they change the song? I don't know how cheerleading works.
No, there's not.
It's always been Thunderstruck, right?
It's not
just
always
this
been.
one. So that's what I'm asking.
It's a more recent tradition over the last
tracking.
Yeah,
that's all I was asking.
Just over decade plus. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if there was like a rotation.
Yeah.
Or they have like different.
No, it's an iconic performance.
I mean, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do like other performances at these watch parties too. Not just. I don't know. I don't know how this works.
Oh, I just wonder. Was it like tradition to do Thunderstruck, or was it like when was it adapted?
Well, here's a fun fact. If you're ever at a game, so Thunderstruck is pregame, and then you have your quarter changes. So between the first and second quarter, and between the third and fourth quarter, you know what those songs and those routines are going to be. And all 4 groups, there are 36 cheerleaders. They're divided into 4 groups, so each quarter of the field sideline, right? And they rotate, by the way, by quarter. So if you're sitting there, you get to see all the girls come by because they'll rotate by quarter. But when a song plays, like in between plays or something, you don't know, the cheerleaders don't know what the song is going to be. So the leader of each of those 4 groups hears the song, and just after a beat or 2 beats starts a dance. And they all have to do the same thing. So they're going off what the leader does. So you could have 4 groups doing 4 different dances. So it is a very difficult, and there is so much more that goes into DCC. And I think in the off season we should do a couple of podcasts and talk about all the really cool stuff that goes on the sidelines and during the week to get ready for game day.
That would be pretty dope. All right, ladies, we had a interesting couple of comments from former Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman, who won, I don't know, maybe 1, 2, 3 Super Bowls with the team, but
3.
I don't know, maybe
a handful,
just a handful, maybe. Yeah, no, he's not lying. He was not lying, but I want to get your thoughts. First, we have the soundbite of what Troy Aikman had mentioned and said last week. Can we go ahead and just take a listen to that real quick?
I think the routes are terrible. I think they run terrible routes, and I've thought that beyond this year. And I think CeeDee's got to improve in his route running. And as a quarterback, if you're not certain where guys are going to be consistently, it's hard to play the position. And so that's what I see. I see guys lazy coming off the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they run. Usually if they do, it's because they're anticipating they're going to get the football in that play. But if they're not, they don't, and it all ties together. And so I'm not impressed with that part of it. I just finished watching the Baltimore Ravens because I have them this week. You put on a film of theirs and watch their receivers run routes, and they come off the football. And so do San Francisco's and Green Bay's and others. But it's hard to play the position if you're not certain how guys are going to run routes or where they're going to be. And I'm not speaking for Dak. Dak may say, hey, I think everything's amazing. But as a former quarterback watching it, it's got to get a lot better.
Now, before I get y'all's thoughts on those comments, Mike McCarthy was actually asked about that today, and this was his exact quote. Troy's statement is in particular, I don't agree with the word selection, but there is definitely need for improvement in every position, not just one position that he commented on. So I think you look at the whole picture, you break it down, and that's what coaches do. There's a process to it. There's always a plan. Now, thoughts on Troy Aikman's comments? I'll start with you, Christy.
Troy's comments carry so much weight with Cowboys Nation, and they should. The man won 3 Super Bowls and is the winningest quarterback of the 1990s, and he knows of which he speaks, and he sees the team a lot, even though less than when he was with Fox and would get them 7-8 times a year. Now he's with Monday Night Football and sees them just a couple times, but he's speaking about it from a quarterback's perspective, and I think that's important because people need to understand that a quarterback is throwing to a spot. You don't wait for the guy to get open because, by the way, open is a very small window if the guy gets open at all. And can we all agree? Can we all agree that the wide receivers need to get some better separation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think we can. And so I think I like the fact that Troy was speaking from that perspective because if you're not sure the guy is going to be where he's going to be, you don't have that confidence to just go back and let it rip. And what did Dak say just a couple weeks ago in his weekly press conference about confidence with the player? The confidence is when I take my third step, meaning he steps on his back foot to release the ball, third step and firing the ball. And that's because you have confidence that the guy is going to be where he's supposed to be. And so from a quarterback's perspective, if they're not running good routes, getting some separation and open, then it is very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the word lazy. Like, to me...
Did he say lazy?
He did say lazy.
He said lazy.
Lazy routes.
Yeah. I don't like the word lazy. I wouldn't necessarily use the word lazy. But I will say there's not urgency, it feels like. And I can understand what he means when he's comparing the Ravens and comparing that offense to this one. But also, it's, from what it seems like, it seems frustrating for the players right now, too, because you don't have a consistent game plan that is always playing up to your strength as a player. And, you know, essentially you're there kind of knowing what's going to happen next, being predictable, being one-dimensional. It's, as a player, if I was a player at least, I would be frustrated by that. And so at that point, yeah, you're in, say you're in on a third down, you already know what's going to happen. You're going to, you know, how do I word this? I'm botching this because I don't agree with lazy, but I do agree there's room for improvement. Now, what I will say is from what it sounds like in the locker room, there is frustration within the usage of some specific players and the lack of or how they're being used. So for me, if I'm a player, you have to believe in the scheme. You have to believe in the system, and I don't necessarily think that that's the case every single time they're on the field.
But this is also a scheme that they've had before. This is the second year in the scheme, so it's kind of like, and there was so much belief leading up to training camp. There was belief this offseason when players were asked about how much better do you feel like you are in this system, being the second year under Mike McCarthy, calling the plays, and there was belief. At least that's what the players had said. So I don't know where, like, I agree with what you're saying, but then with that part, it's kind of like,
well,
I don't really
I
know.
also feel like you had the exact same scheme and game plan that you had last year before teams took CeeDee Lamb as a viable, serious wide receiver one threat in this league.
Yeah.
I think with that, you have to change how you're scheming and planning, and other guys do have to be open, and they have to play sharp too, so that way, hey, CeeDee's not open, you're ready too. I mean, it takes a team effort, and I just feel like how the ball distribution has been can also be confusing because it's not on a consistent basis that you have somebody after CeeDee or you have a decent running game enough to be able to rely on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everything that y'all are saying kind of goes together and works together. I mean, I have seen on tape plenty of times players look uninterested or they're not blocking on the outside, or to Troy's point, there isn't any explosion off the line of scrimmage or suddenness off the line of scrimmage. I mean, I will also too say that there is something of being confident in your preparation, as Jess was talking about, and the plan. But I think a lot of this comes down to their inability to run the ball as well. It's like, the way that teams are playing them, it doesn't favor them passing the ball.
Yeah, they're not respecting the run.
They don't respect the run at all. So it's like there's a million DBs back there. Those guys, whereas they can only get so open. And it kind of goes back to Jess's point about how teams are playing CeeDee Lamb. Did they double him last year? Yes. They still found ways to get him the ball, but CeeDee Lamb even said it last week. They're starting to do it earlier. We didn't see him getting double teamed this much this early in the season last year, I remember. So that's a difference. That's a difference as well. And it is up to the coach to figure out how to find favorable matchups. But the problem is going to lie, like some of the being uninterested and all that stuff, when teams don't think you can run the ball, they're going to let you know. And I'm sure there's some chirping. You listen to how some of these other players have even talked about, listen to how Kirby Joseph talked about, we just had to take away CeeDee Lamb. Again, I said it last week, I'm keep saying, you can't run against light boxes. You are putting so much stress on your passing game, on your aerial attack. So here's my thing. This is the improvement, one of the improvements I'm looking for. And this is something they did last year. If you can't run the ball, you better be a damn good passing attack. You better figure out how to scheme guys open. You better figure out conflict, crossers, things like that. Like, you better figure that side of things out. And I think they did figure that out last year, that they weren't going to win with their run game. Tony Pollard was still slow, kind of getting a feel. He told us that he didn't feel himself until almost mid-season. Teams didn't – I think they cared about your run game a little bit more last year. But even then, it still was a struggle to run the ball. And this team turned on that light and said, okay, we're going to pass the ball. If you're going to do that, at least hopefully Mike McCarthy is taking the strides to maybe try to change some things up. But, yeah, I agree. I think it's belief. I think it's scheme. But I also think a lot of it comes down to your inability to run the ball. So here we are.
When you talk about scheming guys open, how do you do that with CeeDee Lamb? Because this is a connection that you desperately need in order to have success. So, how do you do it?
Bunches.
I was about to say, that's what I was about to say.
Have him off the line.
Yes.
A little bit. Put him in the back of the bunch. A bunch is when you have a few receivers. It could be a tight end. and you kind of cluster them together.
Yes.
Only one can be on the line of scrimmage. The others are just kind of behind him, or sometimes even shaped like a diamond shape. So when you're off the line, that's you're a step behind, but it's harder for a defender if they're playing press coverage to get right up on you at the line of scrimmage and interrupt you when you come off the line to jam you and stop you from getting into your route. So sometimes moving guys off the line, that's also moving them in motion is a similar thing.
Run the hell out of those
Play
corners.
action?
Yeah, play action, but
play action, but you have to respect the run for play action.
Also, if you respect the run, you aren't as predictable as you are right now. I think that's part of it too, is because you don't have a solid run game, you're so predictable because you already know CD's on the field, you're going to pass the ball. If you had a good rotation with your run game, you could get him in the backfield as well as confusing teams of, hey, is he going to run the ball? Or are we playing play action? Like, I think going back to your point, Aisha, you need a solid run game to even start to help what the problem is altogether.
I think you also too, and this is something that we saw last week, is that teams dared your corners to come up and tackle, and they wore your corners down. You also need to do things to be physical with those corners, with those guys, to wear them out as the game goes down. If you're not going to cause conflict within the scheme, then you have to be more physical. So, I mean, and that's one thing that what Troy's talking about too is
physicality.
Y'all
contact balance.
Y'all acting scared to be physical at the line of scrimmage and run past people. Y'all letting guys get their hands on you and drive you out of plays. Absolutely not. Have some wherewithal for you. Like that's also a thing too. And that's kind of why I want to ask you ladies, like, we're talking about all this stuff, like things they can improve and all this stuff. Like, do they feel like they are invested in what's happening right now? Because we can do all this talking and everything, and I'm not saying that the players don't care. They do care. Clearly, we know they care. What I'm saying is like, given everything that's going on, are we seeing some of that on the field, or is this completely football? Like, I can't put my finger on it, because Troy is not just, he's talking about the quarterback stuff, but like, this has been going on all season. Yeah. I've watched the film all season. I know Christy has. I know you've glanced at it. I know you've glanced at it. Like, I know y'all have looked at it too. The effort all the way around has just been a little not to where you would think they would be at. I'm trying to not, because I'm not trying to say they're not trying, but it's like,
details matter.
Yeah.
Yes,
details matter.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm like, I wonder what they feel with right now.
It also seems like they've gotten very calloused from these blowout losses because it's happened so frequently. These, since the playoff loss to the Packers, it almost feels like they're a little calloused from it at this point, which is not a state you really want to be in, because I just don't. I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of
find the words.
I just feel like there's just a little bit of like numbness to it at this point, because it's like, oh, it happened again and we still don't have answers. And I think that's universal among the fan base. Yeah. Among, some of the players for sure. Like, well, I don't have an answer. I'm doing what I need to do, but nothing's changing. So at that point, how can you not lose interest in what you're doing? Because if you're doing your job, but yet it's still not improving anything because the bigger grand scheme of things isn't improving.
Which is the thing. I've heard coaches even talk about that. Like, if you're on a coaching staff, it don't matter if the tight ends are good, boss. If y'all are bad, everybody going down.
Exactly. It's the ultimate team game.
Yes,
and it only takes 1 out of 11 to just one little flaw or a fundamental mistake in terms of your drop, your footwork or eyes in the wrong place, if you're a linebacker or a cornerback looking at things. So that's why it's the ultimate team game. But I think the players and the coaches have the right mindset. I mean, we're acting like this is a disaster. You're 3-3. You're 3-3.
I mean,
and what are we going to? They're not feeling good, and that's why it was a good time for the bye, because self-reflection, looking in the mirror, all that kind of stuff that they talked about last week going into it, coming out of today, look in the mirror, and they're still. everyone's acting, people jumped off the bandwagon in training camp.
I think they're only doing that because it doesn't get easier.
No, it's a hard schedule.
hard
but
ass
you're
schedule.
playing
You
a
set
first
yourself
place
up for
schedule.
it.
Yeah.
But the issues that you have.
Yeah.
I think people's pessimism comes from the issues that you have are not something that are easily fixed. And then there's not like anything that would prove to you that this is going to be fixed or that this is going to correct, especially since a lot of the issues are the same ones you had last year.
Yeah, or that you knew going into the season.
So that's the, I think that's
you
the
didn't
hard
trade for
part.
Amari Cooper this year.
That's the part
so
that
far.
people are struggling with.
Well,
But the
I was gonna
deadline's
say,
later than normal.
Personally, my pessimism comes from the fact that we've been talking about this freaking run defense for 2,
and
3
running
years
the ball
now.
and running the ball
And running the ball and offensive line issues. Like, I want to talk about new issues. Truly. I want to hear about new issues because that means the old ones would have been improved.
We're adding
fixed.
them. We're adding them. Now the receivers don't block on the outside. It just keeps adding.
How exciting.
It's
Let's
sickening.
hope it doesn't keep adding.
I don't-
On
Yeah.
that note, we're going to take our second break. We'll be right back with more Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
Not that we're adding issues.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby. The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Hey parents, get ready for a spooktacular time at Little Stars presented by Nuna on Wednesday, October 30th. This free Halloween-themed event is perfect for your little pumpkins. Oh, it's so cute. Aged 5 and under. Join us from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for fun activities, silly games, and lots of treats. Visit thestardistrict.com for more. Little pumpkins, are you joking? That's adorable.
I feel like you got so excited for that word, spooktacular. You really did.
I did.
I like
know you
Halloween
did.
time too. I like Halloween time too.
It's my favorite.
What you do for Halloween?
So my family didn't celebrate Halloween growing
Yeah.
up, but I just like the way this time starts to feel. I just feel like people start spending time with their kids, with their family. Then we have Thanksgiving, then we have Christmas. And this is just my favorite time. It's expensive.
I know. I was like, don't remind me about
But
Christmas shopping. I need to do, girl.
It's my favorite time of the year where people kind of come together and stuff. It's a good time.
Well,
I like
it's
that.
usually fun when the weather gets colder, but not here apparently.
I'm going to cry.
We're gonna stay in the 80s.
What you got, Mama?
Real fast. All right, we're going to do a little bi-week, first 6 weeks individual report card, rank 1 through 10. I did this last week on the shows when we did the little mix-up shows, so now I want to do it with y'all. Okay. So I'm just going to give y'all
Is
a name.
1 the worst? Like
1 is
failing?
the worst.
Okay.
10 is like, yeah, come on, y'all playing. All right.
Take 10 out of my vocabulary.
All right. Great. This is just defensive guys, by the way. Okay. Trayvon Diggs. I'll start with Christy. I feel like I always look that way first. I'm sorry.
No, you are fine.
5.
Okay.
6.
Yeah, It's gonna be a 6 for me.
Yeah,
Dog.
I gave him a 6 last week too. All right, Malik Hooker, Jess.
4.
All right, Christy.
5.
I say a 5.
All right,
Ugh.
Jordan Lewis.
7 or 8. Can I do 7.5?
Absolutely.
Okay.
7.
I like
I
that.
say a 7 for Jordan Lewis.
Donovan Wilson.
I would give him a 4.
I would say 5.
4.
Mozzie.
You're not saying yours,
I'm sorry,
though.
my bad. What did I give Dono last time? I think I gave him a 5.
Clock that too.
My bad. Right?
Because we may need you to be the
You're not saying
tiebreaker.
yours.
My bad.
Yeah.
Kate, oh no, Mozzie. Sorry.
Oh.
I'll go first this time. My bad. I gave Mozzie. Dang, what did I give him? I think I gave him a 6, only because I did see what he's capable of in the Giants game, and I loved it so much to where it was like, okay, we need more of that.
Yeah.
Potential wise, I'm gonna give him a 6, and what I know he can do for this defensive line. Go.
4.
5.
That'd be nice.
I was
Just
gonna
from
go,
a consistency standpoint.
Yeah, I was gonna go
and that's the
6,
thing. You
but-
see the flashes, and it's like,
it's like,
ooh,
yeah.
It's gonna be a 3.5 for me.
Oh my goodness. All right, Maris.
I'm going to go 6 or 7. I mean, he's a rookie, and
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot going on for
Yeah,
that
there's a
linebacker
lot
right now.
going on, and I don't know how much, where he's slotted.
Yeah.
I don't know that you anticipate that much production. So let me go 6.5.
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
All right.
6.
6.
I'm gonna give him a 5. I need him to play a little bit more under control.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
He'll get
6. All right, DeMarvion Overshown.
7.
Like that. I said 6.5.
Oh, 6. I'm sorry.
I give him a 6. Returning back from the ACL.
Yeah.
I give him a 6. He still got lots to learn.
Well, I also emceed his charitable event last Monday, so raised a lot of
He's a great
money
dude.
for PMR, which does pays medical bills for people who can't afford, and even like their deductibles. And so he's getting involved in the community, and so
dope.
I am grading
great.
him on a curve.
I love that.
I love
That's
that.
fair. At least
love
you're
that.
honest about it.
Right? Damone Clark. Jess.
Oh, man. Well, his snap count went down. I almost said something I'm not supposed to. I almost cussed. 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only seen enough to give him a 4.
Yeah.
4.
Dang. That'll be nice. 4.5.
Okay.
All right.
5.
KJ Henry.
Yeah,
Excuse me?
KJ Henry.
I incomplete.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Okay.
No.
Chauncey Golston.
I give
Shoot,
Chauncey
6 or 7. What do
Oh,
you think?
7. I'll go 7.
Give Chauncey, I would give him a 6, just because of what he's done in run defense. And they just, how is my guy gonna get a second contract with this foolishness?
Please.
He's just been taken through it this whole time he's been here. He just wants to play defensive end, y'all.
Yeah. Well,
A 6.
we all want a lot of things, so
Shoot,
we'll see.
a
I'm good.
6.
6? All right.
Yes.
Jess.
7.
7?
6.5.
Yeah.
Because imagine how much worse off you'd be if you didn't have a Chauncey.
Yeah.
would be
Hey, this is
You ain't
you're right,
lying.
but you're right about this being a contract year, golden
Yeah.
opportunity for
It's a
Chauncey.
huge year for him.
Well, golden opportunity for the Cowboys, too, this week. We'll be back with more Girls Talk, Boys Talk for the rest of the week. Stick with us here at 4 o'clock the rest of the week and at 3 p.m. on Friday. That's it for Nicole Hutchison, Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Chrissy Scales. We'll see y'all back here tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!